For those unfamiliar, my name is Joseph Cecil. I'm the Financial Empowerment Coordinator for the Office of Resilience and Community Services. In that role, one of the programs I get to help coordinate is the Community Financial Empowerment Certification Program that everyone is here today for. So today's class is going to be over student loan debt, and we're thankful to have Apprisen and Miss Jessica Staley to do our presentation today. Before we get started, though, since we're in this new virtual world of facilitating classes, our new form of a sign-in sheet, if you would, is just to drop your name in the chat. We want to make sure you get your credit for being here today. And so at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Miss Jessica Staley from Uprising to lead us through today's session on student loan debt. So Jessica, feel free to take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I am with Apprisen, and I think I see some familiar names. So we are a nonprofit that focus on financial health, well-being, ranging from student loan information, debt management, housing, the full spectrum of information for helping people, reach their goals, things of that nature. Today, I am going to talk about student loans, managing student loans, how to handle regular payments, default, finding your resources to do that. So let me just share my screen. Can everyone see my managing student loans screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Wonderful. So just to get started, do you all think or are aware of the student loan debt crisis that we are facing? Are any of you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So does anybody have any idea of how much student loan debt there actually is? Just as a yes?
Too much.
Correct. Correct. So we'll come back to that. But student in 2021, there is $1.7 trillion in student loan debt here in the US. And so when looking at that, that covers about 44 million people. 1.5 trillion of that is federal student loans. And just to give you guys a perspective of how much a trillion is, if we can even fathom that, it's 1 million million. So it's almost an obscene amount of student loan debt that we're definitely, in a student loan debt crisis with it being that high. So who has more student loan debt? Men, women, dogs, llamas? Anybody want to take a guess?
Women.
You are right. So more women attend colleges than men, more women pursue graduate degrees, and so 58% of women have greater than $30,000 in student loan debt versus 27% of men. When looking on that and how it impacts women, how might that student loan affect, life choices, things of that nature? Any takers?
When to start a family.
Absolutely. Yep. Anyone else?
Buying a home.
Buying a home. Absolutely. Those are certainly, two biggies. Maybe job profession, changing professions, all of those things. What is the age group that owes the most average in student debt? People in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s?
30s?
Yep. Absolutely. So people in their 30s have the highest average amount of debt. It's about $42,600. But looking at this kind of graph, you've got people in their 20s with debt, all the way to people in their 90s with debt, just depending on how it's repaid, when they went back to school, things of that nature. So it is really affecting everyone, all age groups are being impacted. Where does student loan debt rank amongst credit card debt, mortgage, or car loan? What is it, the first, second, third, or fourth highest? Any guesses? Nope. Okay.
First.
So second, yep. Student loan debt is the highest amount of debt, only second to mortgages. So it has surpassed credit card debt, auto loan debt. So certainly it is impacting, as we know, those 44 million people and how much debt they hold. Can the government garnish wages and keep tax returns to satisfy delinquent student loan debts? Yes, no. I'm laughing to keep from crying.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. So, both federal federal and private loans can be, taken, garnished, tax returns held. There is about 11% people have delinquent student loans. And when talking about student loans, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to discharge through a bankruptcy. So really, once you have them, they're going to be owed one way or another. Any thoughts on if you could only pay one cell phone, car payment, or student loan? Any guesses on which would be the best to pay?
Car payment.
Actually, and this would be student loans just because, making them on time, things of that nature. But would you guys say that we are in a student loan crisis?
Absolutely.
A little bit. So with student loans, as even though a lot of people hold student loan debt, there are options on ways to deal with that, ways to repay them, a variety of steps to get them kind of under control and managed. So the kind of first piece is I'm just going to share a quick video of some resources here. I hope you guys will be able to hear it. But this is just some ways that Apprisen has offered to help you review your options. Is that playing for you guys? Oh, there it goes.
I cannot hear her. I don't know about anybody
Cannot
else.
hear it? Okay. Any?
No, there's no sound, and
No
she's
sound?
very, yeah, and it's
No
very
sound?
glitchy.
Okay, we will just, all the information we'll go over on the next few slides. So we will just do that instead to kind of get you guys the information. Okay, so what she kind of talked about were different resources. Like I said, we will certainly go through them, but some key resources that she talked about on the video is for people that don't know where their student loans are. They may have been in default for a long time. There's just a lot of information. There is a student loan database system. The web address is here, and you can find all your loan information in that one location. If you're unsure, if they're older, things of that nature, they may be with a variety of servicers. A centralized location is there for you. Also regarding repayment options and what those are and maybe right for you, you can go to studentaid.gov. That website used to be studentloans.gov, but now, like I said, it's been changed to studentaid.gov. Also, Apprisen has a variety of resources there. And then this final one where it says the gochange.com or the Change Ed app, What she was explaining in the video is there is websites and apps like this that basically take, when you go shopping, they round up and put that extra change towards student loans. And there are several apps that can do that, but this is one specifically that she was mentioning on a way to just chip away, you know, all those small bits of change, you know, to pay it down faster. Alrighty, so when taking out a student loan, you know, things to consider are what your payment's going to be, what your potential income will be in relation to being able to pay those back, what additional debts you may have, and then the terms and conditions of the loan. You know, certainly being very aware of what's expected for you once you are done with school and those payments begin. Just as an example here, an average medical student for balance for graduating physicians back in 2019 was almost $216,000. Obviously, you know, with everything increasing, it's probably higher today, but then the undergrad was about 25,700. So just using as a doctor as an example, they potentially come out with student loans balance of, you know, over $241,000 in debt. Now, when considering student loans and taking out student loans, it is kind of a positive debt to take on. You know, it gives you an opportunity to make higher income, open new doors, but certainly when taking out the student loan, you know, considering the income you'll have to potentially pay it back. You know, and then of course, if you are in school, you know, and for whatever reason are unable to finish, those loans would still be due. So being able to manage in those payments regardless. A lot of people also ask about how student loans can affect home purchase. And, you know, when talking about home loans, lenders do look at debt to income ratio, and this is going to be what your income is, accounting for all the debts you are already paying. So that would include your student loan payments. A lot of first-time home buyers, you know, don't necessarily have a high of a down payment. Credit score may be a little bit lower. So an FHA loan may be the loan they are going with for their for their mortgage. That one of the requirements for FHA loans is it is 1% of the student loan balance that they calculate in. So even if you're making a smaller payment, they're still going to calculate the 1%. If they go through a conventional loan, which is required, you know, if you've got a higher credit score or down payment, they may use what you're actually paying, but that is a difference there when applying for the loan, how the home loan, how student loans could potentially make an impact on what you are approved for. Any questions about this part before we go into repayment strategies and options? Nope. Okay. So when talking about, you know, repayment, it is always best to pay off, you know, in the agreed terms. So if you take no action, the student loan payment plan that they're going to put you on is a 10-year standard plan. This does pay it off in the least amount of time, and you'll have the least amount of interest. So over time, it's going to cost less money. You know, it'll allow you to do other things. It'll help your credit score, and that's just making sure whatever you agree to, that is what you are paying off on your student loans, you know, initially. It just opens more doors for you moving forward, you know, once you get those paid off. So as I mentioned, a good place to start when figuring out your student loans is going to this National Student Loan Database. You can also call your lender if you know who holds them. So if you're newly out of school, you know, you may have that information more handy. Certainly communicating with your lender at any point when making payments on your student loans is really beneficial, so they can present to you, you know, what your best options are. So what you'll need to know is who you owe, what the balances owed are and what the status of the loans are. That'll explain what possible options you have. And of course, being aware of your personal finances, knowing, that they are part of the budget, making sure you're taking care of them, really keeping everything on pace and always being aware and tracking where your student loans are in your overall finances. Again, this National Student Loan Database allows you to view all of your federal loans. If you do have a private loan or you show a loan that you thought should be listed and it isn't, it's possible that's a private loan, so that you'd need to find the original documentation for repayment options on that. Now, also, today we're mainly going to talk about federal loans. Private loans just have a lot of different terms and agreements, so you would want to reach out directly to that loan provider. But when talking about going back to repayments for student loans, there are grace periods. So if you have a federal Stafford loan, and that's just a type of loan, your first payment is due 6 months after leaving school. Your Perkins loan will be due 9 months after leaving school. As I mentioned, private loans are going to vary greatly. So knowing that and being able to plan for that, really make sure you get off to a good start by making that first payment on time, and just knowing, when it's coming. There is, as another resource for you, there is a student loan repayment kind of loan simulator, and this can let you know what option may be best for you as part of your repayment option. It's on the student.aid website. It's just studentaid.gov/loan simulator. So that is another area just so you can plan ahead when the money will be due. Now, this was what I was talking about just a few minutes ago with paying back the loans. This is kind of the first option, and it will be presented and offered if you don't take additional steps. So as I said, it's a 10-year repayment plan. It is the highest payment, but it's the least expensive way to pay back the full balances because it's just completed in that 10-year window. Any questions of anything we've covered so far? So if the standard repayment plan is just not something that will fit into your budget, just not something that's affordable, there is a graduated repayment plan. And this is where a plan that starts out with lower payments and then increases over a 2-year span. So this might be good, if you're starting at a lower income, but know it's going to grow steadily over the next few years. Now, something to note with the graduated plan, with the way it increases in the interest, by year 8, you're potentially paying more than you would on the standard plan just because of interest and things of that nature. So really, think about long term, the best way that it's going to be for you to pay it back. The other option is an extended repayment plan, and these are loans that can be extended for up to 25 years. Loans over $30,000 can be extended either for the standard or the graduated plan repayments, and then consolidated loans will automatically be set up on a sliding scale based on the total balance. So loans under 30,000 can also be set up on an extended repayment plan. So those are all options. Just federal student loans want to help you pay them back. You just need to communicate with them, with your lender, so they can figure out the best option for you. Then another piece that a lot of people are unfamiliar with, but that can be very, very beneficial, are income-driven repayment plans. And these certainly, are loan payments that are more affordable. It is based on income. And, loan debts may be forgiven after no more than 25 years. As I was mentioning, private loans are not eligible for this. So having a federal student loan gives you more options when doing repayments. And then also something to note, the loan balance will rise if it is less than the interest rate. So things to think about there. Here are just some individual links of the income-driven repayment plan options. Even within that one, program, there are several different options. You can go to studentaid.gov, see what's going to be best for you. Now, something to be aware of, there are a lot of outside companies that will offer to help with income-driven repayment plans, set them up for you, things of that nature. Anything revolving student loans can be done completely by you. You don't need to pay a third party. And then a lot of those companies are also scams. So, looking for websites that end in .gov is going to be much more reliable and give you better resources. No fees are going to be owed with those. It's going to be a legit agency wanting to help you through the repayment plan option. And then the other, piece, we all know there are financial challenges, unemployment, health. Obviously, the pandemic has opened a whole world, but always being in communication with your lender regarding financial challenges. So by talking to them, you can review options for possibly a deferment or forbearance. You may even be able to qualify for an income-driven repayment plan at that time. And sometimes based on your income, the payment can be as low as $0. So you'd be able to maintain your payments, even though you're not making a payment. That can all help you stay on track with your student loans, have them not go into default, delinquency, things of that nature. Now, regarding COVID, student loans are on forbearance and no interest is being charged through, I want to say, September of this year, and that's been on for a while. So for federal loans, they are helping borrowers impacted by COVID. The other piece, when you are able to pay your student loans, you really want to pay when you can, and that will help you save on interest. Interest often will continue to accrue even when you're in forbearance, when you're in deferment. So being able to pay when you can will help you ultimately save on interest. There are options to make interest only payments if that's something that you could afford and would work in your budget. Any questions regarding repayment options? Okay, so the next, piece that also comes with student loans is having student loans that are delinquent or in default. And a student loan is qualified as in default when there is 9 months with a non-payment. So you have not been in communication with the lender or servicer, you just stop making your payments. Now, when you have a defaulted student loan and how that may impact you, it'll certainly affect your credit because it's going to show all of those, missed payments. It will also prevent you, if you owe student loan monies, you may not be able to go back to school until you have brought those current or at least making payment arrangements. The other piece is, in addition to what I just mentioned, the student loans are going to continue to grow because the interest will still be there. And then also, depending on, how delinquent and defaulted they are, there can be garnished wages and they can start taking tax returns. So I will say about 11% of all student loans do end up in default. Now, if you have defaulted student loans, there are ways to bring them out, especially if it's a federally held loan. So we will go through that now. So, excuse me. One way to bring loans out of default is through a program called a rehabilitation. And this is at the point when they're at default, the loans are held with a collection agency. You can reach out to the collection agency and then at that point make payments to rehabilitate the loan. Those payments are 9 months. of consecutive loan payments to the collector. And then at that point, it's returned to the loan servicer. And you can review your regular repayment options because they will all then become available. You can do a loan rehabilitation once for the life of the loan, but it certainly is a good resource, you know, to bring it out of default. The other option is to do a loan consolidation. And this, you know, sometimes is possible to consolidate all of the federal loans into one payment. That can also bring them out of default. If you do choose to do a loan consolidation, you would need to enter into an income-driven repayment plan or make 3 good faith payments before consolidation. So those are 2 ways to bring it out of default. You know, you can explore which one is going to be best for you, but certainly both are options. Regarding loan consolidation, federal loans can go through the direct loan program. When looking at this, the interest rate is it's a weighted average. And so it's going to be the average of the loans being consolidated. So it only benefits for those with adjustable rates. Also, because you're consolidating, the payments will be extended terms based on your total balance. But also with that, loan consolidations, you can become eligible for income-driven repayment or public service loan forgiveness, which we will touch on in a minute. Private loan consolidations are available and could help you also obtain lower interest rates. Regarding consolidation though, regarding loan consolidation, federal loans versus a private student loan consolidation, can anyone have an idea of why it may be a better choice to make a federal loan consolidation instead of a private student loan consolidation? So the reason for taking oh, go ahead. The reason for taking a federal loan consolidation is you maintain options. You know, for income repayment plan, loan forgiveness. If you move it into a private loan, you lose those options. Going into loan forgiveness, there is a public service loan forgiveness. This is for government nonprofit employees. It is 10 years of 100 or 120 payments, qualifying payments on an income-driven repayment plan. You can get all the information at studentaid.ed.gov. They have a variety and wealth of information on the requirements that are needed, how to get it set up. I will say though, when entering the public service loan forgiveness program, you want to do it at the beginning. So it is 10 years, but let's say you've worked for a nonprofit for 15 years already, you cannot go back, you know, for those 15 years. So it's better to start at the beginning so you can work on the loan forgiveness portion the entire time you're working at those agencies. There are also teacher loan forgiveness programs. These are for, you know, highly qualified teachers. You have to teach at a low income school, and it is a 5-year teaching requirement. Again, you know, studentaid.gov has quite a bit of resources there on what they are willing to help with as part of loan forgiveness. And then, you know, if you are working for a nonprofit, how may the prospect of loan forgiveness affect your student loan repayment strategy? What other factors would you take into consideration? Any questions or comments here? Okay, so like I was mentioning, you know, just things to think about when you start working when you apply for the loan, you know, the forgiveness program, making sure you're staying on top of those payments, you know, are all beneficial ways that you should weigh into consideration if you are moving forward and want to follow that forgiveness path. Any questions? I know I've just gone through quite a bit of information. Okay. The final pieces are, here are some Apprisen resources. We certainly offer student loan sessions where we look at your budget, look at your student loan options, and if need be, we can call out to the student loan provider to help you set up whether it a rehabilitation plan and just help guide you on additional information. Any other questions? That has come to the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Jessica.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. I am going to put in the chat a survey just for you all to complete, if you would be so kind. It'll have where it says for Apprisen use only, if you could just input like the date, my name, as much information you have about the session, we certainly would appreciate it. I am going to stop sharing though, so I can, I'll move that over for you.
And while Jessica is doing that, we'll do some quick wrap up here for the certification program. I see the majority of you threw your names in the chat as the sign in. I did my best to capture names as they came up on the screen as you logged in anyway. A little bit later today, you will receive a post survey as well as some materials from me. This is a separate post survey than the one that Jessica will be putting in the chat. And if you have any questions about the certification program, you can reach out to me through that email, or if not, I'm going to drop my email in the chat if you never hear from me for whatever reason. Otherwise, I want to thank you all for attending today, and that is the conclusion of our session. So you all are free to head out.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Jessica.
You're welcome.